All right. So thanks everyone for joining for today's actually this weekly Create Unicorn weekly mastermind coaching session. Okay. All right. I see there are still people joining in. If you can open up your video, that would be the best. Okay. But if due to bandwidth or whatever issues, that's fine too. All right. Okay, so welcome to join. And I guess for those of you who might be joining for the first time, because we're still onboarding, just very briefly, this is part of the what's called the Ascender, okay, Impact Accelerator Program. And our goal is the quote unquote vision that we have at Ascender is to incubate 1,000 impact unicorns in the next 20 years. Okay, so impact, unicorns are companies that have $1 billion in valuation. And the reason why we're doing this is because, as we know, there's a lot of global challenges today from, climate to, I guess, AI, okay? And also there's I think, a growing wealth gap between the have and have-nots, right? So I think there are a lot of challenges in our, not just climate, but also food supply, right? All these things. So we figure that social impact startups are probably one of the best vehicles to address these issues, including, they are nimble, they are scalable, right? And they can probably act more quickly than, let's say, governments or traditional NPOs and GOs. So this is where we really want to, bring more. And we do have this course. I think many of you have already signed up called Create Unicorn, and we have daily videos that basically shares the best knowledge of the startup world, and also combined with the best mindset coaching from Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, which I'm a student of for since 2018. So yeah, so there you go. And so each week we'll be, in the coaching call, what we do is we do a share of the wins first. Okay. And basically, as we progress in life, right, we all have learned or do certain things. So if you look through that lens, you probably have something that's, insightful, valuable that you can also take it to your future. And so usually we'll start by sharing some wins, okay? And then we'll ask some questions to prompt you to do some thinking, and then we'll do some shares. Okay, so that's the general format for the coaching call. Uh, Today, there's also going to be another session right after this, which is going to be about how you can actually participate. We encourage all of you to actually create your own star projects. Okay, so you can go through, even if you are not necessarily planning to become a quote unquote professional entrepreneur, I think going through a star project exercise is tremendously valuable for you to learn. Okay. And for those of you who simply don't have any project ideas yet, or are just still learning, trying to learn, trying to understand, we do have our own projects, okay, that you're welcome to join to understand. Okay, so that would be the second half of today's second hour for today's session. That is optional, but if you're interested, feel free to stay on. All right. Okay, so I guess that's a bit of housekeeping. Okay, and just so I like to invite to share some wins from the past week. All right. So anyone would like to share first? What are some of the wins, progress, learning you have done this past week? All right. You can either raise your virtual hand or you could just unmute yourself to share. All right. Anyone would like to share? No. Okay. I see Rohini is joining. Okay. Anyone would like to share? What's your win from this past week? Okay. And do know that this is an interactive session. Okay. You are not just here to listen to me talking, because if that's the case, you can now watch the video, right? You don't have to be here. One of the reasons why live sessions is so important is because we can interact. You can ask questions, right? Yeah. All right. So, okay. So, Rohini, would you like to share your wins? I see you're mute, unmute. What the, so just like to share what are some wins, progress for you last week?
So can you just give me 5 minutes? Actually, I'm traveling right now.
Okay.
Every
All
week we
right.
have a session from 5:30, right? So today
Okay.
we rescheduled for like an hour before. So I'm still in
Okay.
the
No worries.
college right now.
No worries. No worries. All right. So anyone else would like to share first? Okay. If you are for any reason unable to talk or not convenient, you can also type. You can also type in the chat. Um, I'll share one. Okay, for me. Actually, this is actually quite interesting because I actually have been playing a lot with AI tools lately. Okay, and one of the I think this is something I will share later in the second hour. Is that like, I mean, our goal is to incubate 1,000 unicorns, right? So we figured that maybe one of the best ways for us to do this is also to create one ourselves. Okay, I've been an entrepreneur since 2011. Right now, I have three companies. Uh, right now, this very likely will be my fourth company. Okay, it's going to be an agri-tech startup called Pure Harvest. The goal is to promote organic, make organic common. Okay, make organic food produce more common. And my win, actually just this week, is that we actually have been asking and letting uh, AIs of different, to design and feedback on our product design and also our business plan. Okay, and just basically create it. I think I can probably share this again in the second part. Um, but the win here is that I think we got a very good business plan. Okay, just within, let's say, 1 hour of work and have a very in-depth discussion of it to the point that we decide to pivot to a new business model. Okay, and that wouldn't have happened without the support and the help from our AI assistant. Okay, so this is something I think in a very real way, it's impacting, changing a lot of things. And if you can learn these tools well, right? If we can learn these tools well, they are tools after all, then I think it's not really about, we versus AI, but it's really about how we can collaborate, right? To make the, everything more productive, right? All right. So, Mahi, would you like to share your win? I think you have, you said you're a beginner, just starting. Okay. All right. You love the happy work. That's good. Okay. To stay consistent and motivated. All right. Thanks. Thanks. Would you like to share your wins in voice though, Mahi? But I appreciate it, your feedback. Okay. If you're able to do, you can unmute yourself. Okay. All right. Even not, I think what Mahi has been saying is something important. Okay, I just like to feedback quickly on this. Is that regardless of what stage in your life you are right now, okay, many of you are probably still at school, student, right? And you're looking for a career later in life that can probably, I think, bring you to the next level, whether it's in your skills, capability, or your finance, right? Or you're getting financial freedom, right? That may be the goal for some of you. Um, I think one important thing to understand is that life, and this is, by the way, this is another win of mine, which is finish the audiobook of the book called Infinite Game. Okay, that's I don't know if you know the author. He wrote a previous book called Start with Why. Simon Sinek. Okay, so he's actually I think one of the very thoughtful leaders of our age. And in the book Infinite Game, he is basically explaining that in business, as in life, it's an infinite game. We are familiar with the quote unquote finite game. For example, like sports, right? Or let's say you're at school, there's a score in terms of your placement, right? Whether you're first in class, you're first at your university or whatever, right? But those are actually what's called finite game. There is a clear winner, loser, there's a scorecard, scoreboard to keep. And many people mistakenly think that's also the same for business or for life. But the reason why I say it's a mistake is because business and life, they are not finite games. There's no winner and loser in business or life. You can, let's say, achieve a certain revenue goal, right? Or let's say you start a company, you grow it to 10 people, to 100 people, or even 1,000 people, right? But even so, or maybe you can even, start a company as big as Facebook. But even if you reach that stage, it doesn't mean you have quote unquote won, right? There's no winning because the only award you get from winning the game or winning at this stage is to continue playing, right? That's the only reward, and award is to keep playing the game. That's the only thing, right? You continue to play the game of business, the game of life. So, all right, I see Rohini, you raise your hand. Are you willing to share or to feedback something?
Yes, so I just got back to my home. So the win
Okay.
for this week, it's actually a huge thing. I managed to pull off, conducted a TED talk at my college, everything by my own. Luckily, I got to contact a very huge celebrity and then convince her to come back to our college. And then, of course, the word's gonna spread quickly. And when everybody got to know that it was me who organized everything. Everybody were very thankful, and it made me really happy. So that was uh, kind of a win, I think so, for me.
Wow, excellent, excellent. I feel happy for you. Congrats, congrats. All right, okay. So thanks for sharing, Rohini. I think one of the thing we can maybe all learn from is that Rohini actually has invited an important person, right? A VIP and a celebrity to visit her school, university, right? And I think there's a couple of things we can maybe take from this is that oftentimes, and by the way, this is part of our central theme in our coaching, which is called who, not how. And I did not invent this. Dan Sullivan coined the term, which is a lot of times, we are learning the hows. You guys, we have all been educated by our family, by our school, by society. Most of the time, it's in the hows. How do you read? How do you write? How do you calculate? Right? How do you do accounting? How do you do coding, do programming? Right? Sales marketing. These are all the hows. However, if you really observe and if you really want to become, I guess, both successful in the sense of not just material success, but also fulfillment, in your mind and, in body and maybe spiritual as well. I think one of the key is not, it's not simply, um, it's not simply, if you really observe those people who constantly break over their current or their past self and go to the next level, continuously growing, you observe that one of the key that they do is called who, not how. Okay, it's basically leveraging other people's, okay, other expertise, other mentors, rather than relying purely solely on your own capability or experience. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you're not talking, please mute. Okay. Please mute yourself. Yeah. All right. Unless you like to share. Okay, which is fine, but you can raise hands. All right. So I think thanks for sharing. All right. So I would like all of you to also be able to share, what is your win? What is your progress? Each time you go on to the coaching call, because that's a way for you to also review. All right. Okay. All right. So I think we'll start, okay, with today's coaching, which, by the way, we have now entered into the, I think, the fifth week, okay, of Create Unicorn. And this week's theme. So Cray Unicorn is modeled after Y Combinator, which is the arguably one of the best accelerator in the world, YC. Okay, they have funded 4,000 startups, and out of that, over 100 have become unicorn companies. So they probably have the best knowledge. And if you have gone through the coaching in our warm up, I encourage every one of you to sign up for YC Startup School. Okay, if you haven't done that, do so. It's a free registration. You also have access to other materials. Our unicorn is different from that in the sense that, well, we are sort of leveraging the materials, but in condensed forms. Okay, so you only have to spend 15 to 30 minutes a day to listen and to answer the questions, and you can actually get a good step-by-step progress to understand and grasp the knowledge. Okay, so week 5, the topic is called planning and MVP. MVP stands for minimum viable product. Okay, so if you are somewhat interested in startup entrepreneurship, the term is probably not, it's familiar. MVP means you have built something that satisfy a client, a customer segment. Okay, and to the degree that they really enjoy, they like it, and they're willing to become your user, your clients, or even pay you, right, for service, right? So you can earn revenue. So this is called the MVP, minimal viable product. Okay, and it's quite important that we build and reach to a MVP. So for example, like I love to use Ascender, as the example. Like right now, Ascender has the goal to create unicorns, right? That is our mission and purpose, 1,000 in 20 years. But our starting point is actually to try to coach, right? Try to teach the ideas to you guys, for example, right? And maybe not just you guys, but anyone with a heart and mind to learn, right? Globally, that is actually where we want to reach. So what happens is that the course, Create Unicorn, is actually our MVP, right? If you understand, a course can be an MVP as well, which is in our context purpose, it fits the purpose, right? So there's some steps. So YC, this is something I love emphasizing. If you go through the YC materials in depth, you're going to spot a couple of things they highly recommend, at all times, which is one, talk to your users, okay, get their feedback. And second, refine and build your product. Okay, that's it. As beginning entrepreneurs, as people doing startups or you want to spend 80 or 90% of your time on those two things. Talk to users, refine your product. Talk to users, refine your product. Okay, so that's kind of the mantra. So obviously the question is, how do you talk to your users, right? Now, there's some key. A lot of times we might think that you like to do some surveys, right? Some asks to people about whether they have they like your website, your app, and what do they think about this feature. But YC actually recommends that talk to the actual users before you actually develop your product. Okay, don't just go right into building, but actually understand about what the problem is, what pains they are having. Okay, what are the things you're solving. So actually, ideally, one of the ways to build products is that if you are the user of your own product. Okay, the reason why it's ideal because you probably understand the pain the best, right? So you can also build and get iteration very quickly because you are the user. Like, I guess the famous example is Steve Jobs. He is the first user for iPhone or for any Apple product, right? And he's the user. So he's famously not not using any focus group because he is the user for his own product, right? So, but do engage with users and don't ask about ask them about their problems, their pain, and how they're addressing it now. Don't ask, don't ask about what solutions they like to see, or what do they think about your features, because this is another example from Henry Ford. Henry Ford, he invented what's called the Model T, right? He basically started modern car industry. He famously said that we if if he were to ask his customers what they would like, they would say faster horses. Okay, because horse was before a car the best used vehicle, and people only have experiences with horses, so all they wanted was faster horses, right? But actually, he understood their need, their pain of transportation, but he invented something new and different. Okay, he invented car, very much like how Elon Musk did, Tesla. So I think, or how Steve Jobs did the iPhone. So you want to be the solution provider, but asking people is really about the, understanding their pain, their problem, and also observe how they are using your product. Okay, not not necessarily give them detailed instructions. Okay, but kind of like observe how where they stumble, so you can make it more natural, fix it better, right? With better flow, better process. Okay, so those are the, I guess, some key ideas. And how you should build what's called the MVP. Now, a lot of people, especially beginner funders, might spend a lot of time thinking, designing, tweaking their first product, and because they feel that they have to be quote unquote ready, so they may be hesitant to put that into the market to test. But ideally, YC recommends, you know, most MVPs should be launched in a few weeks or even days, not months. Okay. And you can start by serving just a few customers, solving their biggest problems. And one key way to do this is set a deadline. Okay, just set a deadline to launch. Okay, because without a deadline, likely you will procrastinate and indefinitely. So with a deadline, you can actually force yourself to launch something. And I think I think it's Paul Graham or one of the partners at YC. They talk about if you when you launch your product or your service and you don't feel embarrassed about it, then you've launched too late. Okay. This is, I think, something to take away from. All right. So obviously, you guys can see that we're not perfect, right? Ascender, Create Unicorn, there's a lot of issues, probably logistic, onboarding, people don't feel as clear. But if we were to wait until it's quote unquote perfect before we launch it, none of you will be in this room now. All right. I'd like you guys to take in mind, keep in mind that if we were to make sure that Ascender or Create Unicorn were to be more ready, you guys wouldn't be here. Okay, you wouldn't even have access to this, like nothing. Okay, so there's a saying, I think this is from Dr. Ben Hardy, is 80% gets done. The 100%, you're still waiting. If you're aiming for 100%, you'll never get things done. And, people never happen. But if you launch your thing, if you give it to the market, give it to your clients, your users, then at least they have something, right? They have something to talk about, to feedback, to use, to experience. But if you don't launch it, they get zero. All right, so just remember that. So 80% oftentimes is good enough. So do launch it. Now, there's also the concept about 2-week development cycle. So and probably within one of the for each cycle, you want to define a specific metrics, whether it's functionality, it's growth in user, it's retention. Okay, so there's a module about product development cycle. Okay, I think that's something about more detail. If you're interested, go to I think this week's fourth module. Okay, and you can have a more in depth or to the YC video. All right, so I'm going to ask some questions regarding these, what I just said, shared. So the first question is, do you talk regularly to your users? Okay, for those of you who have a startup project or you're thinking about doing one, what feedback surprised you the most? Okay, in case you don't yet have a startup project, I'd like to invite you to also think about, are there problems, challenges, pains that you are experiencing on a regular basis? Okay, for yourself or for your friends, family, like around you, and did you get any, I guess, you know, feedback from them, right? That kind of is shedding some insights about the problem, okay, that maybe nobody else is noticing, or okay. So the question is to regularly talk to your users and what feedback surprised you the most. All right, is the question clear? Okay, if there's any question, you can also ask about the question. If not, then I'll give everybody 90 seconds to journal down. Okay, just write down, do you regularly talk to users? What feedback surprised you the most? Or, if you don't yet have users, what are problems, pains that you have noticed around you? Okay, all right. So let's start with 90 seconds. All right, 10 more seconds. All right, okay, time's up. Okay, so let's go to the second question, which is, what are the main difficulties or blockers in the project you're currently working on or you're thinking about doing? Okay. Um, you may or may not have a project now. Okay. But just if you have one, I guess, from your perspective, what's the main difficulty or blockers? That's what's blocking you, right? Can you launch it, quote unquote, next week? Okay. Now, for those of you who are, who might be thinking something, yeah, the challenge is, can you launch some version of it, even if, for example, it's just a survey of some sorts, right? Or maybe a simple web page, right? Okay, of the concept or project you'd like to work on. Okay, so what's the main difficulty right now for you? And can you launch it next week? Okay, so I'll give you, actually, the better question is, how can we launch it next week? Maybe I should change that. Okay. All right. How can you launch your concept or project next week, as opposed to, many months or later? Okay. So 90 seconds to journal on this. Let's start. All right, so 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. Good, good. I think Mahi has answer share. We'll do sharing later, okay? For right now, just journal, just write down. Okay, just write down your thoughts, your thinking process. It's important that you are writing things down so they become more concrete because our brain works better when we can actually see things, right? When you start to write and see, that actually helps us to clarify and think better. All right, so let's now maybe switch gear to, because our course is actually, we have two themes that go concurrently with one another. One is concept from YC about startup. The other is about the 10x mindset. Okay, so this is more about entrepreneur mindset and emotional resilience, for example, agility or anti-fragility. This is also very, very important, especially when you're doing something bold and new, like entrepreneurship or building a startup company, because very much likely you're going to face with a lot of challenges, setbacks, and quote unquote difficulties, okay, which is just part of the deal. But if you have the right mindset, not only will you be able to leverage the difficulties, embrace the challenge, but you actually might thrive under difficult conditions. Okay, this is actually the essence of what's called anti-fragility, which is you actually become stronger with challenges. Okay, I think that's a state of being that potentially if we can be, that would be very good, right? Because that means you actually grow better, stronger with each difficulty that you encounter, as opposed to be beaten up by it, right? So the part of the 10x concept is that for those of you who may be listening for the first time or maybe not, 10x actually involves several steps, and the first step is actually 10x your vision, your goal, make it 10 times better, not just necessarily in quantity, but also in quality. Okay. And when you can, there are different stages. Okay. It's called the see, feel, and know stage. The first stage is you can see something, right? Seeing something. For example, like I can see a sender incubate, help 1,000 impact funders, entrepreneurs to grow into unicorns in 20 years. That's a vision I have, right? That's something I'm seeing to happen in the future. It may not happen fast, it may not happen tomorrow, but it may happen in 20 years. And I can see that thing happening, right? So you start to imagine things. That's the seeing part. But then, uh, that's not enough. The next stage is actually you feel. You can actually feel what does it feel like when you're actually doing things, realizing things that way, right? So that is the feeling stage, okay? And it's important that you are actually feeling it. You can, even if it hasn't happened yet, you can feel what it feels like when you're moving towards that. Because emotional connection is actually important as a source of energy. If by thinking about that, by seeing about that, that actually makes you energetic, right? Makes you excited, makes you looking forward to it, right? Like, for example, if I can imagine that there's going to be great entrepreneurs, many of, our of you can become great entrepreneurs sometime in the future, right? Some of you might build, you know, companies worth tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, right? Or even billions of dollars in the case of unicorn. That's something I would definitely be very happy about. Okay. And also I can imagine if you can achieve that yourself, you will probably also be happy, right? For yourself, for your family, for people you care about, right? For your clients or for people you want to serve, right? So that kind of emotional feeling is actually also important because that connects with your why. Now, the third level, okay, third level is once you are doing things concretely towards that, you actually start to know that this will happen. Okay, so it's no longer a maybe, a hope, a what if. It's actually you know that this will happen. Okay, so from seeing to feeling to knowing. So those are actually three stages. And I'm sure every one of you has this experience in your past, right? For example, you might have gone to maybe an exam, but feeling fully confident that you will nail this, right? Because your capability is so much higher than what the exam demands, right? You might have, experiences like these, or maybe, you just have a certainty that this will, move in a positive direction, or this will happen, right? I think in some things we might all have experience of that. So encourage you to, to see things through this lens. Now, um, the okay, so I guess the first step again is that you want to have a what's called a 10x vision. Okay, and this can be no more than let's say 3 years. Okay, and you can then start to backtrack from that to your current state and figure out what's the next step that can move me closest to my, future self, my 10x future, right? All right, so I think that's the first concept to share, which is let your future decide what you do in the present. Most of times we are setting goals and plans based on our present circumstance. However, a much more powerful way is to imagine a big future first and then try to reverse engineer and backtrack. How do I get there with my next step? What's my next step towards that, right? And if you can just figure out the next step, then you're good. Okay. All right. So I think that's the first concept I like to share. Now, the second thing I'd like to share for this week is again in our 10x module. Usually we have them for Monday and also Friday. Okay, so the beginning and end of week. It's you guys, some of you just joined, but some of you might have already start since the beginning of the month to now. Uh, it might feel like it's already getting a bit old, or part of the journey. Usually, we would feel drag, right? Part of the marathon, halfway through the marathon, is usually the hardest. Okay, so but if you are feeling you are struggling in your progress or things, it might also be a good time to ask yourself and clarify, why is this important? What's the most essential? Okay, so these are some questions you can ask. And there's also something called a power move. Okay, power move is something that, so basically the 10x process is going something like this. You 10x your vision, okay, and then what happens is, because 10x actually requires you to do something very different, you want to remove 80% of what currently you're doing. Okay, you have to sort of clear up the space, your time, your attention, your energy, even your money, in order to focus on what's really essential. And then the third step is to focus on the essential, the most important 20% that you like to take towards your future. All right, so that's kind of the the three-step process. Dr. Ben Hardy also called this the frame, your frame, which is how you look at world, how you look at things. Floor, okay, which is what you say no to, and also focus, what you like to amplify. So floor defines the 80% to remove, and focus defines the 20% you want to keep your eye on and to amplify, right? So part of the amplification is something called power moves, quote unquote power moves. These are uh, things, decisions, actions that may or may not take a lot of energy or time, but it may have a huge implication or results for your future. So, for example, the fact that you guys have signed up to this, right, to join Ascender, to join Create Unicorn, I would argue that's a power move for many of you. Okay, because you're doing something different and bold and you're taking an action that you may have never done before, right? And this is something, frankly, for me, it's also something I've never done before. Okay, launching a sender and, teaching, coaching to, you guys are from India, I'm from Taiwan. Okay, this is also something very unique and very different. Okay, I have never done this before. All right, I've been coaching mostly, Chinese speaking entrepreneurs thus far, right? So I think it's also something new for me. And I guess um, so power move could also be an investment, to yourself. Let's say you have, I guess, sign up for maybe a program, or maybe you have decided to, uh, to leave behind certain things, okay, or to start a new relation, or to quit an existing one, okay. Could also be power moves. Sometimes it may just take 1 minute to make a decision, or to make a phone call, or to send an email, okay? But that may have a huge implication to your life. I think we all have these such points called turning points, right? If you look retrospectively to your last 5 or 10 years, you probably have done something like that, right? So those are the power moves. All right. So our next question is, what is your 10x vision? Okay, and no more than 3 years, and no more than three goals. Okay, so I'll give you everyone I think 90 seconds on this. Okay. So just write down, let's say in 3 years, where would you be? What is your 10x version of that in no more than three goes? All right. So let's start. 90 seconds. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay. All right. I hope you all had some very exciting 10x future in 3 years that you're looking forward to, your 10x vision. All right. So our last question today is that from your future perspective, your future self's perspective or view, right? Let's say, your 10-year future, sorry, your 3-year future, right? 3-year future self. Write down three power moves that will move you towards your quote unquote impossible goals. Okay, write down. All right. Those are probably very powerful moves if you take that will have a huge impact to your life, current trajectory, but that may be making yourself uncomfortable at the moment. Okay. Oftentimes, another trait for power moves is that it might require you courage to do it. Okay. It might be something you're fearing or something you've been avoiding. So I'll give you an example personally. Uh, I've shared with you that I have been a member in Strategic Coach. Okay, this is in my webinar actually for 2 years. So I'm learning directly, from Dan Sullivan's organization. They have three levels of coaching. I'm sharing this with you now so that maybe one day you will also join Strategic Coach. Okay, I'm just planting the seeds and the idea to you because it's a wonderful, I think, global international network of entrepreneurs, very high level. Okay. Typically, you have to, get a certain level of income level or revenue level. I think it's 200K, 200,000 in terms of personal income, or 300,000, a year in terms of revenue. Okay, to be invited, to join. And basically, I have been there for 2 years. Uh, it's called the Signature Program. They have three levels. The second level is called 10x mindset, the 10x level, and the third is called free zone. So obviously, the second level has a higher level of commitment, both in terms of, I think, the level, but also in terms of the financial investment. Now, for me, that would be kind of because my goal is actually to get to the third level, the free zone. Let's say within 3 years. Okay, and but now I'm at a stage where I have to decide whether I want to join the 10x program this year. That will require. So far, I've been doing remotely attending, and mostly in Taiwan. But for the next 10x level, it means I have to fly out to maybe the cities that are hosting these events. So that's a much bigger commitment in terms of both time and also money. But yeah, but for me, if I do that, that would be a power move. Okay, so just things like that. Okay, whether you have that in your life. So the next question is, from your future self perspective, write down 3 power moves that will move you towards your impossible goal, but make you uncomfortable. Okay. All right. So I guess 90 seconds. Okay. By the way, these are question 3 and 4. I'll also type it in the chat. All right. So 90 seconds for the last question. All right. Let's start. All right. 10 more seconds. Okay. All right. So I think we'll go to the next part, which is sharing. All right. So I'd like to invite, maybe a couple of shares for your answers. Okay, you can share either your answers or any insights that you have realized during the process of, answering these questions, or any questions you'd like to ask. Okay, you can also ask. All right. So anyone would like to share? You can raise your virtual hand. Okay. Again, don't be shy. This is a great example. I mean, opportunity. Or maybe if you want, you can unmute yourself and share. All right. So, okay. I think maybe this is what we'll do. Okay. Well, put everyone. Oh, okay. Rohini. Yeah. Would you like to share?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So first, I'll start with the last, with the 10x vision.
Okay.
That question. So currently, the top three goals would definitely be the next 3 years. Would be launch and scale my startup. The second one, develop a powerful network and achieve financial independence. So these are my top three. And the fourth question, I think we have future perspective, write down three power moves that would move toward your impossible goals, but also make you uncomfortable. So it would definitely be uh, mm, pub, reaching out to top entrepreneurs and mentors, building connections with people way ahead of me, even though it feels a lot intimidating. Uh, l- Launching before I feel ready, releasing an MVP and getting real uses instead of waiting for the perfection, and like publicly pitching my startup to a lot of investors and industry leaders, like putting my idea out there at a very high level. Even uh, I don't know, but right now I feel very very unprepared, and even in the future I'm gonna have the nerves and jitters definitely. And the second question, I think, is what are the main difficulties, blockers in the project you are currently working on, and how can I launch it next week? The main challenges right now in my project are definitely balancing it with my college workload, finding the right collaborators, people on my team, and ensuring that the product effectively meets my user needs. And to launch it next week, I would streamline my whole idea into an MVP, gather, very quick feedback, like user feedback, and to iterate rapidly rather than aiming for the perfect vision from the start. And the first question, actually, I have a doubt, sir. So the first question was about, do you regularly talk to your users, and what feedback has surprised you the most? So is this on? I've been working on my idea, but it's not yet out. But still, I know a few users, my target audience, and I've been taking many feedbacks from them. So am I eligible to like share that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable, right? I mean, remember this is a recorded session. Okay, that's going to be shared publicly. So, but whatever you feel comfortable sharing, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So, right now, uh, my I'm in the early stages. So, I've started like gathering insights from my potential users, and the most surprising feedback was, I'm working on a mental health startup. So many students, many of my users, they do hesitate to seek support, mental health support, because they don't know where to start. So it showed me that beyond just offering resources, my platform needs to focus on guiding users through their whole journey in a simple and very approachable way. So that was the biggest feedback that I got when I reached out to them, when I gathered information from my research. Mm, that's it, sir.
So basically, the feedback is that people are hesitate to share. Is that did I hear that right?
Yes, sir.
Hesitate to
That's one
seek
of the
support.
main reasons. So I
Okay.
need to work on that to make sure that they are very comfortable, and to make my whole, I mean, that is, I need to have the unique selling point, right? Compared to the other many mental health apps that we have in the market. So me focusing a lot on uh, uh, that top point, I would say.
Okay. Nice. Nice. All right. Okay. So I guess again, this is a mastermind session, which means any one of you capable and we're welcome to share feedback or questions for Rohini. Okay, so just like to invite, is there anyone who'd like to share any feedback or questions for Rohini regarding for what she just shared? You can type in the chat as well. Okay, if you all right. Okay, if not, then I'll share. Okay, but again, remember this is supposed to be peer feedback. Uh, And the reason is that, more brains are better. Okay, if we all want to support Rohini on her quest to build this mental health startup, right? Then by giving some feedback or questions, if you don't want to do it now or you have ideas later, also feel free to share, in the group chat or, in our WhatsApp group or reach out to her directly. Okay, this is something I would highly encourage you to do. Now, um, okay, so my feedback is this. Okay, um, you know, um, we all have our hesitation to reach out to key mentors. Okay, but mentors, they are probably one of the teachers are probably one of the best who's that's out there. Okay, especially for those that are willing to to teach and to share, right, to feedback. So, I mean, that's something I would highly encourage you, to reach out more for. Okay. If anything, I would say from my entrepreneur journey so far, I started doing that in 2011 to now, is that mentors are extremely, extremely important. Okay. If I had known that earlier, if I had known earlier and start to seek out that great mentors earlier, I will probably at a much higher level now than, where I'm currently at. Okay. So if I were to talk to myself 20 years ago, for example, that would be one of the advice I would give. Okay, do and seek out great mentors. Okay, try to connect and try to help them. Okay, one of the ways to reach out to them is to see what do they need, what's their wants. What are they? Because even if they're mentors or high level people, they still have certain things they may have difficulties to address or they want to make happen. If you can help them, right? So there's a book actually by Genius Network founder, Joe Polish. Okay, he has a book called "What's in It for Them." Most of us, when we engage in a relation, we try to ask, "What's in it for me?" Right? What can I get from what can I take? What can I get from this relation? For example, from this internship, right? Okay. Or what can I get from going to this school, right? What can I get, right? Or in the case of investor, right? How much funding can I get, right? So oftentimes I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, okay? It's only natural that we are seeking help. We want to know what's in it for me, right? However, if you really want to build what's called transformation relation with your with important people, then the key is not to ask what's in it for me, but to ask the other question, which is what's in it for them. Okay. And it's also important to ask this question to your partners, to your clients, to your investors, or to your mentors. Okay. Because when you ask this other question, what's in it for them, you are actually thinking about how can I help and contribute and create value for these people, right? Rather than how is this benefiting me? And when two people are what's called takers, meaning that they want to get things out from each other, you can form a relation, but it's called a transactional relationship. Okay, it's kind of like you're doing a trade, right? I give you money, you give me some banana, right? It's a trade, it's a transaction. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. We're doing lots of transaction on a daily basis. However, for some of your most important relation, think of your family, your friends, your collaborators, your mentors. You want to build what's called transformation relation, which is in the case both people are givers. I want to give you and you want to give me. Okay. And it's rare and it's probably also not easy to form this kind of relation. But if you are able to form these kind of relation with key people in your life, then you can have a very good life. Okay. I mean, this is just something to share. All right. So, I mean, like, Ray Dalio. Okay, he's the founder of Bridgewater, one of well the largest hedge fund in the world. He's written a book called Principles. Uh, he talks about for him what's important is to do meaningful work and have meaningful relationship, quote unquote. Okay, so I think if we can, and I think the way, if you can have transformation relation in your life, right, whether personal or your professional life, I think that would probably be a very meaningful life that you're living. All right. So Rohini, so I guess my first feedback is try to think of the question, what's in it for them? What can I do for them? When you are trying to reach out for high level mentor type people. Okay, so I think that's one feedback. And once you are in that mindset, I think it will be easier for you to ask and to reach out, right? Because then it's a question of how can I help these people? How can I help him or her, right? Rather than what's in it for me. Okay, so I hope this is something helpful. And the other thing regarding your customer hesitate to seek support. Okay, um, one of the things I don't have an answer to this, okay, because obviously I'm not doing a mental health thing. This is right now not my domain. But what I can share is a process and a thinking method, maybe for you to think about. And I'm speaking to all of you, okay, not just Rohini. I like to encourage everyone try to reflect on these answers, how that applies to you in your current life, current project, which is everybody is unique. Okay, so Rohini, your clients or your customers, your people you want to serve, probably they are a unique audience. Maybe they are, I don't know, university students, okay, or maybe people belonging to a certain organization or a certain inclination. So they have unique problems. When you are seeing and trying to solve unique problems, and based on your unique capability. So every one of us has unique capability, okay, unique ability, as Dan Sullivan will call it. And when you try to use your own uniqueness to solve problem, to solve their problem, you will find, you will discover unique solutions. Okay, so unique problem combined with your unique capability will become unique solutions. And that will be something very different from what everybody else is offering or giving out there. Okay, so even if there are many apps or many existing solutions, people obviously mental health is a big problem. A lot of people are probably trying to solve or trying to address this issue. But if you have a unique audience and you are applying your unique capability to find a unique solution, then that will be very unique to you. Nobody else has that. All right. And you can literally own the space. You can be the number one in the category that you're creating and become the dominant player. Okay. This is how you create value. This is how you become, in fact, potentially a billion-dollar unicorn. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes,
So,
Ian.
okay, I'll give an example from my perspective. I believe in remote collaboration because I was a gamer. I was playing, games, computer games at age 7. I was into virtual worlds. I love virtual worlds. I love imagine virtual worlds. Okay, since a young age. So I knew metaverse will happen. In fact, before I became an entrepreneur, I was a researcher doing metaverse related research. Okay, I wanted to build realistic virtual environments, virtual worlds. But because of that, when I started my entrepreneur journey, I decided to do remotely since day one. Okay, because I knew metaverse will come, will happen. Although in some ways it's not yet happened yet, but I saw that coming. I'm seeing that happening. So my first company was fully remote. That was like over a decade before COVID hits. Before remote actually become maybe a main thing, right? But even before that, we were already working remote for over a decade. And because of that, when I'm doing accelerator, when I'm thinking about trying to help entrepreneurs, I naturally started thinking about offering a fully remote solution, right? So while YC is great, I admire, I respect YC, the solution, the accelerator I come up with will necessarily be very different from YC, even though I'm also teaching and also leveraging their material and content. But the solutions I'm offering will very, you can see that it's very different, right? It's uniquely different from what YC is offering, right? And that doesn't make us competitors. In fact, because they have their own niche or approach, I have my approach. We can all become the best in our own category. And I think that's a very great way and potentially to collaborate rather than compete. I think that's also something I like to share with you. Okay, don't compete, collaborate. Okay, all right. So I hope this is helpful. Now, due to time, okay, I think we want to wrap up this session. I originally wanted to maybe have one more person to share. Actually, I think there's a yeah, I think there's some great feedback. Okay. All right, from Vasheli. I love that. All right. Okay. So, okay. Also, I think there's a question in the domain of data analytics or investment banking. How can this internship be beneficial? All right. I'll answer quickly. Okay. Basically, I think the mindset and the understanding about entrepreneurship, okay, which by the way, what entrepreneurs are in essence is people who are very creative and resourceful, meaning that you can build things from 0 to 1 and maybe scale things from 1 to infinity to many. All right. So regardless of the domain, it's mental health or data analytics or investment banking, if you can actually develop the capability to become a creative problem solver, right, an innovator, and also to understand how this can potentially be financially helpful, rewarding, right? Basically a business, right, to your audience, your clients. I think that's tremendously valuable, okay, for investment banking, particularly, right? Because that's what investment is about. You want to know who to invest, what company, what project to invest your money, so you can actually have a successful return on investment, ROI, right? That's one thing. And I guess in terms of data analytics, although we're not teaching data analytics, but we will be sharing a lot of the AI techniques that I probably personally will be using, okay, from time to time. So I think those are great topics. You can apply data analytics skills. My second answer to this is I would encourage you to stay for our second hour, which will happen quickly, which is I'm going to share an actual startup that we're currently building. For those of you interested to maybe contribute, okay? Even if you just want to learn and observe, okay, you're also welcome. All right. So I guess that's I guess for the first hour. Now, I hope that answered your question. Okay. For Sarish. Okay. I don't know if that's your name. Gutem. Okay. I hope that answers you. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll wrap up today by asking you to do a feedback. Okay, so just quickly, I have shared in the chat, okay, a Google form. And basically, I'll give everybody 1 minute to answer, to fill in very simply, what's the biggest takeaway for you today? Okay, basically, what's the one thing that's the most valuable for you from this past hour, this last coaching session? And also, what's one action you want to take afterwards? Okay, because you probably have heard a lot of things in the last hour, but I like you to distill that into just one takeaway and one action. Okay, so you can actually act afterwards. All right. All right, so everybody, 60 seconds. What's the one thing, takeaway, and also one action afterwards? All right, let's start. So do open the link, and fill it. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. So yeah, that's it. Okay. So again, I'd like to ask maybe a couple of people to share what's your takeaway and what's your next action for today. So anyone? Harish, would you like to share since you asked a question? What's your takeaway? All right, Rohini. All right, go ahead. Rohini has raised her hand.
So today we got to learning part. Today we got to know about MVP and how it helps launch faster and by focusing on the essentials rather than the perfection. Got a clear idea on that aspect and the action definitely to identify the core features of my idea and to test it with the real users. So that's good. That's the action that I'm gonna take for the next week.
Nice, nice, excellent. We love to hear your progress next week. All right.
Cheers, sir.
Lovely. All right, all right. Please do share. All right. Okay. So anyone else would like to share? What's your biggest takeaway and what's your next action? Okay, maybe one more. Could we have one courageous soul to? So anyone? Oh, Mahi. Okay, Mahi. So learning action is better than perfection. All right, great, great. That's great learning. Yes. What is your action then, Mahi? What would you do next as the next step? What's your next action? You can also type if you're not okay to speak. But I will encourage you to speak, okay? Unmute yourself, and there's magic when you start to talk. Okay, great, great. All right, create your MVP and speak up more. Okay, okay, great, great. All right. So I think with that, again, if you haven't shared, you can also share in the WhatsApp group. Okay, what is your biggest takeaway and what's your next action? I think feel free to share. I think that will also encourage people to also share and learn from each other. All right, so that
Sir,
concludes. Yeah. Okay.
shall I tell about my takeaway today, sir?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Share, Mehdi.
Sir, this week I learned that I want to step out of my comfort zone and like set a bold and that impossible goals which is necessary for my 10x growth. Like I have learned that by identifying like important high impact actions so that I can from today I learned that I can overcome blockers and I align that with my long term vision, sir. So I want to break big goals like into small and achieve tasks that becomes clear. So I'm motivated myself to prioritize learning and execution for maximum progress.
Okay, great, great. Is there any particular thing you want to take action or execute, as the next step? Any particular action you want to take?
Sir, as last week itself, I have started doing my project on research papers, sir. So I want to set a goal that I want to take bold action and improve this project. I want to create a good outcome of the project. That is my 10x goal for now, sir.
Okay, great, great, great. All right. I encourage you to clarify, what the deliverable. It could be a document, it could be a one pager, it could be a website. Okay, just clarify what that is and, build that as your next step. All right? Make it concrete. Even a one pager helps, and you can create with AI. Today's AI is very powerful. All right. Okay, so thanks for sharing. All right, so I hope you all benefit somewhat, okay, from this. So this concludes our weekly coaching session, okay? What I'll do is, okay, I'm going to be sharing something. Okay, so let me stop the recording, okay, and start a new